If I were to poll a large group of people, like Family Feud style, who the most iconic villain in comic book history is, I bet you the number one answer would be the Joker. Batman's longtime foe is as big a staple as they come in the comics, and has translated equally as epically onto the big screen as well. There's been a slew of memorable renditions of the character, from Jack Nicholson to Heath Ledger, and we're on the verge of yet another iconic performance by Joaquin Phoenix. It's almost as if everyone who plays the role leaves a memorable mark on the character's history. Even Mark Hamill's rendition from the cartoon is considered legendary. You know how the Stanley Cup has like a small plaque for each team that wins the trophy, and each year a new champion gets added? It's sort of like that, only we all agree to omit Jared Leto. Although it's one of the most iconic roles, the details about the persona are still relatively vague. I mean, what do you expect from such a lunatic? The Joker has come in many shapes and forms, with a multitude of backstories and explanations as to how he got to be the way he is. There's no clear-cut answer, but a lot of speculation. That's why we're here, to dive deep into the Joker's psyche and figure out exactly who this person is and why he does the things he does. One of the primary characteristics of the Joker is that he's an insane person. It's something they reiterate time and time again, and the thing that the role is pretty much entirely based on. But what if he isn't actually insane? According to author Grant Morrison, who's responsible for penning some of the greatest Batman vs. Joker storylines, he's actually the opposite of insane. Morrison suggests that instead of being a raving lunatic, the Joker actually suffers from something called hypersanity. He explains it by calling the clown, quote, a brilliant new modification of human perception. The Joker seems to have no control over sensory information he's receiving from the outside world. He can only cope with the chaotic barrage of input by going with the flow. He goes on to say, quote, that's why some days he's a mischievous clown, others a psychopathic killer. He has no real personality, he creates himself each day. Okay, so hypersanity is an interesting concept. Correct me if I'm wrong, but wouldn't that still be considered insane? I mean, if we're agreeing that the Joker isn't sane, then calling it insane or hypersane just kind of seems like semantics. Anyone who isn't sane should theoretically be classified as insane, I would think. Then again, we're talking about an evolution of human capacity and a level of mad genius that probably doesn't even exist in reality. Whatever you want to call it, I think it's safe to say that everyone agrees the Joker doesn't think or act like everybody else does. He's completely and utterly brilliant, only his area of expertise isn't math or science, it's anarchy and chaos. The guy isn't the cleanest of fellows either. It's not that he's into drugs or anything, he doesn't have a substance abuse problem, but he definitely ingests a bunch of stuff that isn't great for the body or mind. In the story arc The Clown at Midnight, found in Batman number 663, Grant Morrison explains why the Joker is immune to toxins and poisons. Quote, an avid consumer of his own chemical experiments, the Joker's immunity to poison concoctions that might kill another man in an instant has been developed over years of dedicated abuse. So he pretty much built up a tolerance to poison. Talk about self-improvement and taking steps to better yourself. After all, you know what they say, if it doesn't kill you, make it stronger. Wait, no, that's not right. Immunity to toxins is only one of the Joker's many powers and abilities. While it may seem like he's just a crazy person without a cause, running around causing hysteria wherever he goes, he actually possesses some pretty awesome traits that would make some superheroes jealous. For starters, he appears to be fearless. I don't mean he's brave, I mean he's quite literally fearless. Like, seeing someone like Batman confront dangerous criminals and pull off incredible stunts may lead someone to believe that he's fearless as well, but Batman absolutely feels fear and is just able to overcome it. That's what bravery is. The Joker isn't brave, he actually has a literal lack of fear. That part of his brain just doesn't exist, which means something is definitely a bit off psychologically upstairs. Fear is a very normal human trait that everyone on the planet has inside of them to some degree. To feel no fear whatsoever is inhuman, and I guess it could be considered a superpower. He also has an absurd resistance to pain. This might tie into the whole lack of fear thing, because it's tough to get scared if you don't fear the possible painful outcomes. It could also be possible because, well, he isn't in his right mind. Either way, the Joker has a remarkable tolerance for pain. He's also a master strategist and tactician. For a guy who's all about going with the flow and living a life of chaos, his expertise at planning is fascinating. It's almost like he's a savant, who's otherwise off the charts insane, but manages to specialize in one specific thing that he's next level brilliant at. Which leads me to believe that he may not actually be insane after all. He might just be an egomaniac who's constantly making up excuses to be weird and stand out. Well, maybe he's just like that, only with the brain of a criminal mastermind and more knives. After all, every genius needs to be a little bit crazy, right? The two traits tend to go hand in hand. Plus, insanity isn't so black and white, it's more of a spectrum. The Joker is definitely on there somewhere. If the x-axis is insanity and the y-axis is genius, then he's right up there in the top right corner for sure. Perhaps in order to understand the character better, we need to take a look at his past. In Jack Nicholson's rendition, he plays Jack Napier, a mob enforcer whose appearance was radically altered by falling into a vat of dangerous chemicals as well as botched plastic surgery. The guy just couldn't catch a break, apparently. No wonder he was such a bad guy. The Clown Prince of Crime's origin story in the Jared Leto interpretation is a little more vague. His origins are unknown, but we know there's some sort of link to Ace Chemicals. It's always the chemicals with this guy. The Dark Knight version of the Joker, portrayed memorably by Heath Ledger, gave perhaps the most insight to the character's background. This version of the role was arguably the most dark, psychopathic, and unstable one to date. Throughout the film, he gives multiple explanations as to where his scars came from, and in a way, how he became the person that he is. The first time he tells the story, he explains that his father was an abusive drunk who pulled a weapon on he and his mother. The father is apparently the one who put a blade in his mouth and carved that nice permanent Glasgow smile of his. That's where the iconic "why so serious" line comes from, as well as the "let's put a smile on that face" one. The second time the Joker explains his scars, he changes things up. This time, talking to Maggie Gyllenhaal's character, he explains that he had a wife who would always tell him that he worried too much and that he needed to smile more. She also had a bad gambling problem, and got into some debt with the wrong people. They ended up carving her face up real bad, and she stopped smiling. So, he claims to have given himself those scars to prove to her that he loves her no matter what. In the latest version of the role, Joaquin Phoenix takes the helm, which is exciting because he's a phenomenal actor who could not be more perfect to play such a sick and twisted individual. The movie takes place in a New York-esque Gotham City in 1981, as Phoenix will play a man by the name of Arthur Fleck, who works as an actual clown. According to rumors, the name is meant to be a dig on Ben Affleck, whose rendition of Batman was underwhelming, to put it nicely. The story revolves around the iconic DC city of Gotham at its lowest point, suffering from a crime wave and a garbage strike, leaving it dirtier and more dangerous than ever. In this telling of the story, Arthur Fleck isn't some big-time criminal to start. He's just a nobody who works as a clown and comedian for a talent booking agency. Arthur is also the primary caretaker of his mentally ill mother, a former housekeeper for the Wayne family. Not the Wayans like Marlon and Damon, I mean like Bruce Wayne. While we still aren't sure if the Batman will even make an appearance in this film, there's definitely some awesome foreshadowing and plot development going on here. Rumor has it this movie will focus heavily on the character's eerie relationship with his mother, as well as heavy overtones of pharmaceutical abuse. With Joaquin Phoenix at the helm, and judging by the trailers that have been released thus far, it's sure to be another instant classic performance in the storied history of the Joker character. Throughout all of these iterations of the role, there are several traits that remain true. He's manipulative, he's brilliant, he's absolutely a sociopath and a pathological liar, but is he insane? I guess that one's up for debate. What do you think? Would you call the Joker insane or no? Also, which portrayal of the role is your favorite one and why? Leave a comment in the section down below. Before you go, make sure to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to Behind the Screen to stay up to date on all of our latest releases. Until next time, bye!